Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm just going to give it about a minute before we start, just to let everyone kind of trickle in. But thank you so much for joining us, and just hold off, just sit tight for about a minute. Going to start the presentation in about 30 seconds while we wait for everyone to kind of trickle in. So just bear with us for another 30 seconds and then we'll get started right away. All right, everyone, I think we'll get started. So good afternoon. We're super excited to have you all participating in Kila's final day of our 3-day virtual conference, Plugged In. If you haven't attended our morning session, if you have attended our morning sessions or previous sessions so far, welcome back. And if you're just tuning in now, welcome and thank you for joining us. Before we begin this session, just a few housekeeping details to go over with you. So first, this session will be about an hour in length, which includes about a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session at the end. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation, and you can just pop those into the Q&A box or the chat box, and then we'll get to them, like I said, at the end. And all sessions will be recorded, and you will receive this recording along with the slide deck by the end of this week. And with that, I would like to introduce and extend a huge warm welcome to two of N10's board of directors who were supposed to present together at the NTC conference that was unfortunately canceled recently. But instead, they've generously offered to lead the session online with all of you today. And with that, I'd like to welcome and introduce Meico Whitlock, who is the founder and CEO of Techie. And we also have Jason Shim, who is the Director of Digital Strategy at Pathways to Education Canada. And their session is titled Apps, Tools, and Tactics to be a Nonprofit Olympian. Thank you so much today for joining us, Meico and Jason, and I'll pass it off to you now.
Thank you for having us. Thanks so much for having us. So yeah, we are here today to talk about apps, tools, and tactics to be a nonprofit Olympian. And we are going to jump straight into it here. So a little bit about us. My name is Jason, and as Mel mentioned, I serve as Director of Digital Strategy at Pathways to Education Canada, and we serve youth who are living in low-income communities to graduate from high school and reach their full potential. And along the way, I've learned a lot about different apps and tools that have been helpful in a day-to-day work and to sharing with everyone today. And with that, I'll pass it over to Meico.
And I am Meico Marco Whitlock. I am a speaker and trainer with an organization called Techie. And I work with change makers just like you to break you free from tech and work-life overload so you can do your best work and live your best life. And this topic is squarely in line with the work that I do. I could talk about this for hours. So I'm excited to be here and to share what we pulled together for you.
Great. And so in terms of what to expect for today, we just want to go over that a little bit. So, we called this Apps, Tools, and Tactics to be a Nonprofit Olympian because the motto of the Olympics is faster, higher, stronger. And we frame all of our tools in this way. And so these are tools that will help you, go faster, help you raise higher revenue, and build stronger relationships. So we thought that was a neat way to kind of, have a few different buckets of these categories to understand some of the tools and why we selected them. As well, we have prioritized to make sure that these tools are accessible for everyone as well. So many of these tools are free and or low cost for access. Very mindful that we're also working in a nonprofit context. So first off, we're going to kick it off with video tools. So the first video tools that I want to share with you are Vidyard and Bonjoro. So Vidyard and Bonjoro are both platforms in which it makes it very easy for people to record personalized videos and to send them to their audiences. So in particular, I want to share with you a use case that we use at Pathways is for Vidyard, there is a Chrome extension that is available and it's free, where you can install the Chrome extension and record personalized videos for donors. So one of the things that we've done recently that has received really, really great feedback is that we use this free service to make personalized videos. So there you have thank you video that went out to someone named Catherine, and it's a really nice personal touch in that it's in addition to getting the automated receipt, you get a message maybe a few days later being looking straight in, being hi Catherine, I just want to say thank you so much for supporting our organization. I'm a student of the program and I personally benefit from your generous donation, and it really helps give that personal touch. And I'll turn over this one over to Meico for Loom.
Excellent. So this is another video type tool that you can use. And so this particular tool is something that you can use to do screencasts with audio narration. And one of the cool use cases for this is if you ever have a situation where someone is having trouble maybe accessing something on your website, or maybe they're having an issue with email or their browser, and you're trying to figure out what it is and how they're describing it, verbally or via email is not quite, helping you to understand what the actual issue is. This particular tool allows you to really quickly and easily through the website or through a plugin for your browser to actually do a screen share, narrate what your issue is, figure out what it is, save you lots of time with that back and forth, and to really quickly figure out how to solve the issue. And the cool thing about this tool as well is that because of what's happening with the rise in virtual work and coronavirus, Loom has actually offered to make their paid version of this tool actually free through the summer. So if this is something that you could benefit from, definitely advise folks to look into it and consider taking advantage of this opportunity.
Next up is Kapwing. So besides having a fun name, Kapwing is very helpful for being an in-browser platform where you can make videos and edit them. In particular, what we use it for at Pathways is for editing and adding subtitles to video. So we were looking for something that it makes it very easy in which you might have a transcript available or you want to manually add subtitles. This will actually burn the subtitles straight into the video so that if you're posting it for social media or you're posting on your website, that it's more accessible and it's easier to view for your audience. If they're not everyone has sound on all the time, and having the subtitles makes it a more engaging experience. Next up, we're going to look at some social media tools. So the first one that we'd like to highlight is Linktree. So Linktree we have found very helpful in that when you are sharing information on Instagram, you only really get one link because you can't have links directly in your posts. And a lot of people may use the term link in bio, but you only get one bio link. So Linktree is a program that will allow you to create a menu of links, so you can direct people to go to this link tree for your organization, and you can spread this across multiple posts, and you can direct people to have various options to visit after they click on that link.
Awesome. And next up, we have a tool called Distraction Free for YouTube. And I love this particular browser plugin, particularly since I work with a lot of folks around technology distraction issues. And so if you are on YouTube, let's say for an educational purpose, you're looking up a video to figure out how to do something that's going to help you do your work more effectively. Perhaps you're trying to figure out how to get on Zoom and you're trying to find a video to help you do that. This plugin allows you to install this for your browser and to block out the side view of the upcoming videos. It allows you to disable autoplay, and it allows you to disable and hide the comments so that you can actually focus on the video and not get sucked in the rabbit hole of watching video after video after video of things that probably aren't relevant to the primary reason you actually went to YouTube in the first place. So if you find yourself in that particular position, this can be a really good tool for you to look into and to consider. So connected to this are also a series of tools that are built into the mobile versions of Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So I don't know about you, but I've often had the challenge of finding myself on Instagram or on YouTube, and I look up 45 minutes later and I'm like, where did my time go, right? So if you're one of those folks and you want to do a better job of actually monitoring your time on these applications, perhaps making sure you're balancing that with actually getting meaningful work done or managing relationships well, you can use the settings in these applications to set reminders and to set timers for how much time you want to spend, or to get an indication of how much time you're actually spending, so that you can get a better handle of how you're actually using the apps and how much time you're actually spending. So if you want to be able to use the apps and have fun and stay connected, but also balance that with living life and getting work done, these could be some things you could check out. And related to this is another tool called Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator. And this particular tool is for the browser. So plug-in for the browser. And similar to the scenario that I described with the other apps, sometimes you log into Facebook and you have the intention of posting something in a group, or maybe wishing someone a happy birthday. But what happens is you get distracted by the news feed, right? And so you end up maybe 45 minutes later, and you're like in this nonstop cycle of like cat videos and panda videos, and you're wondering like what happened, right? And how did I get here? And what was the original reason that I actually came, right? So this particular tool replaces the news feed with an inspirational quote, and it allows you to really pause and to make it more like that you actually remember the real reason that you were there in the first place. So this is one of my favorite tools that I use for the browser in order to make sure that I'm managing those types of distractions. So now that we've talked about social media, I want us to dive a little bit deeper, and I want us to talk a little bit about email. So one of the things that we know about email is that it's estimated that on average, we spend about half of our working time engaged with email. So I want you to think about the length of your work week, and I want you to think about what it would mean to actually get back half of that time, right? So we spend half of our time reading, writing, responding to email, or getting back on track after being distracted by email. So I want to talk with you about a few tools that are going to be super helpful for you as you think about using your email in a more conscious and intentional way. So the first tool is a tool specifically for Gmail. I'm a power Gmail user, and this particular tool is called Gmail Inbox When Ready. It's a free plugin you can install. One of the things that it does is it allows you to hide your inbox. So when you log into Gmail, the first thing you see is not like a load of hundreds of messages. Why is this important? Well, what if you log into Gmail and your intention is to respond to an email, or you're looking for a particular conversation that you want to follow up on, but you end up seeing the gajillion things that are in your inbox, and you're like, oh my God, I have to respond to these things right now before I actually get to the real reason I'm actually here, right? So that's one of the ways you can use it. One of the other ways you can use it is that it actually gives you metrics on how much time you're spending in your inbox. And so being aware of how much time you're spending in your inbox, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever that number is a good way to raise your awareness about how often you are in your email, how often you have your email open. And if that's a challenge that's getting in the way of you actually getting meaningful work done, an opportunity for you to take a step to actually curb that. So Gmail Inbox When Ready is one of those tools that I really enjoy for those reasons. So the next tool here is for folks that are OCD about maintaining. So for folks that are OCD about maintaining their inbox cleanliness, right, or email hygiene, or data hygiene, as my colleague Beth Cantor would term it. So this is an actual feature that you can activate through your settings in Gmail. It's called Archive plus Send, which essentially allows you to simultaneously respond to an email, close out that conversation, and then archive it so that it's no longer in your inbox. Then, of course, if someone responds to the email or the conversation, then it pops back up into your inbox. But for the time being, it's archived And it allows you a simple way to keep your inbox clean by essentially doing two things at one time. You can send it, archive it at the same time. So keeping us moving as we talk about the next tool here is a tool called Streak CRM. So it's actually a CRM that is built into to Gmail, and it's a really cool tool. I personally don't use this tool for the CRM features, although you could do that. I use this for a number of reasons. Number one, it allows you an unlimited number of pre-scheduled emails. So I don't know how many of you work outside of traditional business hours, but sometimes I do that and I want to get work done and be productive, but I don't want to send the signal that I'm available to respond to your email at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, right? So I will schedule those emails to go out the next day during what I consider to be traditional business hours. So Streak CRM is one of those tools that through the free version allows you to send out and pre-schedule an unlimited number of pre-scheduled emails. It also allows you to create something that I call snippets, or that it calls snippets, which are essentially if you are constantly getting the same questions or requests over and over again, and you don't want to have to retype those responses over and over again, you can create snippets and use the keyboard shortcuts to enter those as those pop up. So instead of you having to type out those responses over and over again. And then the last thing that's really cool about this, particularly for folks that are used to Outlook and the Outlooks and the Microsoft suite of things, is it does really sophisticated email mail merges. So if you are in a position where you want to be able to send out really customized emails and you want to make it look like it's coming from a real person and a real email address, this is a really powerful tool to help you do really sophisticated email mail merge beyond just plugging in someone's name. There are lots of other cool things you can do with mail merge with this particular plugin for Gmail. All right, so let's keep this moving. Let's see if I can advance the slides. And I see we have some folks who are fans in the chat. All right, so Boomerang. So Boomerang is one of those tools, again, that you can use to pre-schedule emails, similar to Streak. And it's also a tool that allows you to set reminders to follow up or to respond to emails at a certain time frame. So if you want to send an email, but you want to be reminded, oh, okay, if I don't hear back from Jason in 2 days, I need to follow up. Boomerang is one of those tools that will send you a reminder to follow up if you haven't heard back, or to send a new email or whatever it might be based on what your needs are at that time. So you can use these in combination, or you can sort of figure out which of these tools has the best feature set for you, and then you can use those. I may have overkill because I think I have all of these installed. So, but you don't have to do that. You can just sort of pick the ones that make the most sense for you. You have to do overkill like me. Okay, so up next. Okay, so let's go back a little. Okay, so one more. Okay, one more tool. Okay, here we go. So Google. So again, another tool here for folks that are big fans of Gmail, big fans of our Google tools. So folks that are familiar with the Outlook suite of tools, Outlook has a number of different ways that you can do mail merges through their Outlook tool. So using Microsoft Word and using Excel. And so for a long time, that was really challenging to do through Gmail. And so there's a plugin that's literally called the Mail Merge extension. You can Google this, install it, and it allows you to use Google Sheets to do essentially the same thing. So you can set up mail merges, and you can send out emails through Gmail by essentially syncing up Google Sheets and Gmail. Now, it does simple mail merges. If you need something more sophisticated, I definitely recommend Streak. But if you just need something simple that does the first name and last name and maybe a couple of other fields, then the Google Sheets extension would be probably your best bet. All right. So we've talked about social media. We've talked about email. And now let's just keep it rolling and talk a little bit about browsers. And let's talk about privacy. So we're spending a lot of time working remotely, and lots of folks are, perhaps if they're new to this, are sort of getting up to speed. And it's great that we're using so many tools to help us to do that, and that we have tools that are available to help us to really facilitate our work in an almost seamless way remotely. But we want to make sure that we're also being mindful of some of the privacy implications of connecting with one another and sharing information. So we're going to talk a little bit about the browsers, but then also a little bit about some of the privacy tools that are available for you. So the first tool that I want to share with you is a tool specifically for the browsing experience and also for the mobile phone experience. This tool called Shim. And this is a tool that is available as an app launcher and a notification manager for Android devices. So sorry for the iPhone users, it is not available on iPhone. I apologize. You can send your hate mail to Shim, not to me. It's available on that particular Android platform, but here's the cool thing. It's also available as a plugin across browsers. So specifically Chrome and Firefox, I think are some of the most popular browsers that people are using. So what does this tool actually do? So if you are the kind of person that when you're working in your browser, you get easily distracted. For me, it's the news sites, right? So I'm constantly following what's happening in the news. I'm constantly following what's happening in the political environment. And I want to be able to do that, but I also want to be able to get my work done. Shim allows you to identify your most distracting websites and to put those on a list. And it actually forces you to slide a slider if you actually want to access those distracting websites. So what does that do? It causes you to pause and to actually think about, do I actually want to be looking at, the BBC? Do I actually want to be looking at the New York Times right now? Or do I actually need to be working? And then as you're on those websites, it periodically gives you a reminder to say, okay, well, you've been on this website 5 minutes. Like, how much longer are you going to be on here? Like, what's going on? So really cool tool if you're looking to really effectively manage your time on those distracting websites. Stay Focus is another tool that I use. It has the same purpose really as Shim, but it works a little bit differently. This particular tool allows you to identify your distracting websites, and it allows you to set a time budget. And so what I do is I have a time budget of 30 minutes. I allow myself 30 minutes to peruse social media through my browser and to peruse my news websites daily. And after my 30 minutes have expired, if I'm on one of these distracting websites, I get a message that says, shouldn't you be working? And I'm not able to access those websites until my budget resets over the next 24 hours. So if you want to be able to allow yourself the opportunity to engage with your favorite websites, but not spend all your time on those, here's another tool that you can use to help you really manage that more effectively. Okay, so what about privacy? So Privacy Badger is one of my favorite tools for this. It's a free plugin. It's available for Chrome. That's available for Firefox as well. And what it does is it allows you to essentially detect trackers and cookies and other things that a lot of websites deploy when you actually visit them. And it allows you to actually block those things. And so if you are a privacy conscious person, this can be one of those tools that can be really powerful for you. The one caveat that I would note is that some websites, if you have this turned on, are not able to load fully or to function properly. And so in cases where you run into that, you can temporarily disable Privacy Badger specifically for that particular website, and then you can turn it back on if you choose to. So there's flexibility there so that if you're trying to order something on Amazon and it's not working, you can turn it off temporarily and then turn it back on after you place your order. So there are a number of different ways you can use that to navigate the web a bit more safely. And what about the mobile devices? Okay, so here's a tool that I use called Privacy Pro. Now, tool is intended as a VPN or a virtual private network for your mobile devices. And it's a powerful tool, but I don't use it necessarily for the VPN option. I use it because it helps you to see all the applications that you're using and all the websites that you're browsing. It allows you to actually see and to block all the trackers and the bad cookies, all right? And you don't need to pay for the paid version. You can actually do this through the free version. It allows you to actually block those trackers. And so this is one of the ways that I actually use it for the mobile device to protect my privacy.
Right. And next up is Signal. So, as many of us are working remotely, and if you're sending text messages and things, one thing to keep in mind is that text messages are generally logged by your cell phone provider and are not the most secure form of communication. So if you do need to send a message to another individual that you need encrypted and secure, Signal is an app that will be very helpful for providing that to you. As well, one of the features for Signal is that you can also set messages to expire after a certain time. So you can set this to be as soon as a minute, or it can be after a day or longer. You can send a message knowing that it won't be available after a certain time after it's been viewed. This was recently recommended by the EU among staff members that are working in some of those sensitive environments for having discussions. So this is a product that can help protect your privacy in terms of messaging. Next up here is Evernote Web Clipper. As well as Pocket. So both function, similarly in that, with both Evernote and Pocket, is that you can, let's say you're going about your day and you find something that's super, super interesting, but it's an article that's 15 pages long. And if you're looking to save it for later reading, both Evernote and Pocket are very helpful in terms of tools that can do that. Evernote has a bit more functionality in that it lets you clip specific things like screenshots, bookmarks, articles. I also use it for note-taking for meetings, as well as saving articles for general reference later on. Whereas Pocket, it's very much geared towards articles or blog entries or websites of text that you're looking to catch up on later. Another really great feature for both is the cross-platform availability. So you could be browsing on in your web browser and you come across an article and you have the Pocket extension that's say for Chrome or Firefox. And then, if you are later wanting to view it on your phone, let's say, you're sitting on the couch and you just want to, catch up on the article that you saved earlier, you can pull it up in its app form as well. Next up, we have Toby. So this is a screenshot of my Toby in my browser, and what it is it's quick reference bookmarks. So each day I open up the same sort of article websites. So for my news roundup, it might be the Toronto Star, Waterloo Region News, Golden Mail, and instead of having to manually type in those URLs or even going to the bookmarks, you can launch all the tabs at once and have them load in the background, and then just go through your morning news read. But also for documents that I check in very frequently. So these are my team check-in links right here, so that when I have my weekly check-ins, I can just pull up a new tab and just jump straight to the document that I know that I access. So these are my most frequently accessed types of things. Or if there's a project in which I need to reference a shared document, instead of having to search in Drive every single time, that I can just drop it in there and look up what the updates have been to that document as well.
All right, so calendars and meetings. So I talked earlier about emails and how that takes up a lot of our time. It sucks up a lot of our time and productivity. Meetings are also one of those things that can get in the way of us actually getting meaningful work done. However, if done smartly, they can make it a whole lot easier. So I'm going to talk and share a little bit of a few tools that can actually make it easier to get back some of your time as we talk about actually scheduling meetings and figuring out which time actually works for everyone. So let's talk about the first tool. The first tool is a plugin for Zoom for both Google Calendar and Outlook. If you use Zoom a lot, I implore you to stop whatever you're doing right now and to install this plugin if you're using Outlook or Google Calendar. Here's the reason why. Once you understand that you have to set up a meeting, if you're doing it the manual way, you log into Zoom, you set up the calendar, you put in all the information, you have to copy and paste the invite and then send it to the respective people, right? With the Zoom plugin, it really streamlines that process so that you actually create the calendar invite in Google Calendar or Outlook, You literally click the button, make this a Zoom meeting. The Zoom link and call information is generated automatically. And then you can add the folks that you want to add to invite to that meeting. It's all done within the calendar invite. You click send or you click invite, and voila, it's all done. You saved yourself several minutes of going back and forth trying to do it manually. So if you use Zoom frequently, you're inviting people to Zoom, save yourself a few steps by installing this plugin if you're using Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. The next series of tools here also help with streamlining scheduling. So this is particularly useful if you schedule a lot of one-on-one meetings. So there's Acuity Scheduling and Calendly. They're competitors, they work very similarly. And one of the things that they allow you to do is to save the amount of email back and forth or talking back and forth to figure out what time someone is available, right? We can spend, up to, in the aggregate, 30 to 45 minutes or more trying to actually schedule the meeting. And so this really simplifies that process. And so what it does is it allows you to share your calendar, share your availability. You share the link with someone, they can pick the time that works for them. And once they select their time, and there's a confirmation that essentially puts the calendar invite on your calendar, one on their calendar. They get a reminder if you choose to set reminders, and off you go. You have it scheduled, you've taken care of it. It's like having a personal assistant that's sort of taking care of it for you. So if you're looking for something to streamline things, definitely recommend that. I personally use Acuity Scheduling because it has a bit more flexibility in terms of the types of appointments that you can have. And also there's a lot of flexibility in terms of accepting payments and different types of payments. So if you are, let's say you're a yoga teacher, or perhaps you work in a clinic, for example, and you need to be able to charge or copay for an appointment or whatever that might be, this particular tool allows people to set an appointment, but also be able to, you can collect information on the front end to be better able to serve that person when they come in, and also to accept payment if you need to be able to accept payment. All right, so our next tool here, we're going to be talking a little bit about icons and graphics. So for folks that are doing a lot of presentations, perhaps like what we're doing, or you're designing marketing materials, a few things that can be super helpful for you. One is a project called a tool called the Noun Project that has a cool assortment of various different types of icons, both free and paid. And I think the one caveat is that if you're going to use the tools and you're for free, you want to make sure that you are providing the appropriate attribution. But definitely pretty cool things that I have used for some of my marketing materials, as well as presentations like this. So if you're looking for something outside of just the standard set of icons that you have available through your default applications, this could be a really good tool to consider. And then similarly, we have Unsplash, which is essentially, I think it's a crowdsourced collection of high quality graphics that can be used. And again, if you're going to use graphics from this library, you just want to make sure that you are looking at what the attribution requirements are and making sure that you're appropriately attributing the artist as specified in the particular artwork that you're choosing to use.
Great. And next up, we have to-do lists. So, I make extensive use of the to-do lists here. And in particular, one of them is Todoist. So this is actually my shopping list. And what it is it works across different browsers as well. So often, if I'm going about, my day and, something pops up and I happen to be in my web browser, I can add a new item into Todoist via the Chrome extension. And then later I can also check it on my phone. And on the left there, you can see a whole bunch of projects that you can assign your to-do list items to as well. So this is very handy for just reminding yourself of things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. I use it both professionally and personally. And one of the really cool features for this is that you can share to-do lists as well. So if you're working on something and you may need to assign to someone else to take care of certain to-do items or to help, if you're short on time, and let's say you need a colleague to assist with something as well, that this helps with sharing to-do list items with them.
The one other thing I would note for this for Todoist, so I was a power user of Wunderlist, which was bought by Microsoft and then is being discontinued this spring. So if you're like me and you were crying tears of sadness because Wunderlist is closing down, Todoist actually is pretty much functions the same way, and they have a really cool import feature. So if you want to import your things over from Wunderlist or another similar tool, Todoist has a seamless way of do it, and it took me literally less than 5 minutes to set it up, and I was off and running. So for those Wunderlist fans, yes, I see Aiden saying there's so many tears. Yes, so if you are sad about that, send your hate mail to Microsoft and then download Todoist. All right. So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about productivity. And the first batch of tools that I want to share in here are Smartsheet and Airtable. So these are two separate tools. They are competitors of sorts. And this is for the folks that are Excel geeks. So you know exactly who you are. So if you are an Excel geek and you have pretty much maxed out the capability that Excel has, I see Samantha says guilty. If you've maxed out the capability and you're like, I want to take this to the next level, Smartsheets and Airtable are like Excel on steroids. And so I've used both. I'm personally using Airtable now. The only limit here is really your imagination. They can be used for so many things. There's so many different cool ways that you can automate the workflows. And there's so many cool things you can do even with the free versions of things. So I can only imagine what you could do if you actually paid for a full version of access to either one of these tools. So if you're an Excel geek and you're looking to take things to the next level, check out one of these. These are essentially Excel on steroids.
Next up, for people who love automations, if this then that, or ifttt.com and Zapier. So all these things are things I use personally as well. So for if this then that, if any of you have any home devices as well, you can connect if this then that to, if you give a certain command, you can turn on the lights or send an email or send a text message. Or in this case, you can integrate if this then that kind of automation to if a new Twitter follower follows you, that you can send an automated message, saying thank you as well. If you're looking for something a bit more complex, Zapier has a lot of great integrations with various providers. So this is an actual integration that we use internally, that when a new donation arrives via our platform, send a Slack message immediately into one of our channels so that our donor managers can see in real time. So this has been something that has been positively received as well. And Zapier, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have a ton of different integrations that we use, and some with increasing complexity. So one of them is like, if it fulfills certain conditions, notify these people or send it to this Slack channel instead. If you're looking to take that even a step further, Microsoft Power Automate, formerly known as Microsoft Flow, is the tool for you. So there is some drag and drop capability, but there is also, if you want to really dig deeper into it and have additional technical capacity in-house, that you can build some really, really complex things. So in this particular instance, this was an instance where we're building something where every time there was a new kind of donation that came in, that we would put it together in an online Excel spreadsheet, and then every day compile that spreadsheet into a PDF, attach it to an email, and send it to a list of recipients that's needed, because the situation that presented itself was, we were manually taking this information, saving it into a PDF, opening up an email, dragging it over, attaching it, that you can take tasks like that and automate the entire thing and not have to do some of those daily automated reports. So as long as you can clearly define what the steps are for a lot of the things that you're working on, chances are you can probably automate it. So that's definitely something to look into if that's something that you really enjoy. So moving on to texting, in the work that we do working with students across the country, texting is something that we do quite a lot of. And one of the things that, one of the tools that I really enjoy is Text, as well as, iMessage. So I know that for iMessage, that allows you to, text or send text messages on your desktop if you're using a Mac. And I know that Android has the Android message system, but the reason why Text jumps out to me is that it has a lot of additional functionality in addition to being able to text from your desktop. So once you sync it up, you can have a power view like this, where you can have everyone highlighted, and you can see multiple conversations at once if you want to manage that, as well as you don't have to go back and forth between your desktop and your phone to text. The other is that you can send scheduled text messages really easily. So, let's say if it's late at night and you want to send a text message, but it's 2 a.m., you can schedule it for a little bit later for its arrival. So that's something that's super handy. Another cool feature to this is that the Chrome extension allows you to send links directly to your phone as well. So if you're browsing something that you can flip it over via Text, and it'll pop up a link on your phone to follow up on. The one thing to kind of keep in mind is that for iMessage, it doesn't necessarily it uses Wi-Fi. So if you are traveling, that can be a downside. And if you want the full functionality of iMessage, that both users would have to be using iMessage as well. So for any of you who are on Android who have had conversations with someone who's using an Apple phone, that's why you sometimes get the text messages of liked your message. It's because they've attached a heart or to the message. The other tool that I would like to share is Twilio Studio. So Twilio Studio has the option or the feature where you can drag and drop various flows for the kinds of text messages that you receive, or if someone calls you, that you can create your own kind of interactive voice response system. Twilio does offer $500 in credit for nonprofits to use as well. And so this makes it very simple for developing those personal IVRs, or the use case that I've used it for is for when doing presentations, and if I'm trying to recruit volunteers, that I can create a text flow that will engage and say, thank you for texting, what is your first name, last name, what is your email, for later follow-up. So this has been super handy for creating those in a very visual way that's easy to use.
Awesome. And so picking up on this before we move along to the next tool, it's just a reminder that many of these tools offer discounts for nonprofits. And so all you have to do is really submit your documentation that shows that you are an official nonprofit. And so definitely encourage folks to check those things out. The second thing is that a lot of these organizations are also offering free versions of premium tiers of their particular tool, given what's happening in the world right now. And so make sure you do your research and to check to see what's available to you and how long, and if there's a steep discount for you as a nonprofit. So the next tool here, in terms of the texting role, is a tool that I love to use. And it's a tool that I use for email opt-in. And so this can be used in the context, for example, let's say like if we wanted to offer the slides to you right now, and I would say, well, text this word to this number, and we'll add you to the list to actually get the slides after today's meeting. So that's something that can be used for fundraising, can be used as other ways to engage people depending on the type of event that you're looking for, but it's called Textful. And I use it when I have events. People ask me, can you send me this resource, or can you direct me to this or that? I have them just text to the number that I have, the code, and have them add it to my list, and then I'm able to then follow up with them after the event. So pretty cool. So let's turn our attention to our devices. So our smartphones and our tablets specifically. So I spend a lot of time working with people in organizations around managing their time so they can be productive, but also using your phones in a way that actually enhance your life but not get in the way of it. So Moment is one of those tools that actually allows you to track the amount of time that you spend on your mobile device, see which apps are taking up most of your time, and to really raise your awareness about how you're using your device. So if it's getting in the way of you living life and working the way that you want to work, then you have an opportunity to change that. And the cool thing about this is that Moment and other companies like them have actually kicked off what I think is a good trend, where you now have Apple and Android building into the iOS tools people to actually do similar type of tracking. And so chances are, depending on what type of device you have and how recent your operating system is, that some of these features might also be built in by default into the iOS for the particular tool or device that you're using. Okay, so another tool here, I'm going to consider this a bonus tool. It's one of my favorites. So a lot of us are working remotely, and some of us, well, I will speak for myself. I've had the experience of working with organizations that maybe are a few decades behind in terms of the technology, and they rely very heavily on paper. They insist on a real signature, and the electronic signature is foreign to them. And so you have to send them something that looks like it's been an official document that's been signed. And so I have used this app called PDF Document Scanner to actually take pictures of documents and to create PDFs, or to make it look like it's actually been a fax document when it's just something I just took pictures of on my phone. So really cool app if you are sort of in a pinch and you need to really quickly scan something and get it to someone, turn it into a PDF, turn it into a graphic or an image. Really easy to do in a matter of seconds with this particular app.
Next up, we have transcription. So transcription is something that's near and dear to my heart because in my previous life, I did work as a transcriptionist. So I'll take you through a few tools that will help you convert speech to text.
All right, so the first option here is a tool that I have used for the mobile device, and I think there's a desktop version as well. It's called Dragon Dictation. Essentially what it allows you to do is to dictate your message, be it if you want to dictate your blog post, dictate your text message or whatever it is. It generates a file, then you can then copy and paste the content of that file into your email, into social media, or whatever it is that you want to do with that. And the cool thing about that is that now a lot of tools, including I believe Google Docs now, allows you to do something similar. And so you definitely want to check to see if the content creation tool that you're using has a similar feature. A lot of the newer tools or the updates include something similar where you can do text to speech. And so particularly powerful for efficiency, but also keeping in mind people that might have limited abilities, right, or different abilities, that this can be a powerful tool to help sort of close the barriers to communication.
And next up, we have Rev. So Rev is something that is super helpful if you are looking for your transcriptions to be human transcribed, but also done quickly. So, this is helpful if you're working on a marketing team and you have interviews with people who have been impacted by your work and you need to get out a story right away, that often in less than 24 hours, you'll get your completed transcription. Or if you need captions for videos, that you can select what are called SRT files, and you can have them generated and you can just import them directly into YouTube or into Kapwing, which I shared earlier, and it'll automatically add it to your videos. However, if you're looking for something a bit more efficient in terms of cost, it's a little lower on the accuracy, but it's a fraction of the cost. There are solutions like Techie, which is actually connected to Rev. It's just their automated version where it's instead of $1.25 per minute, it's 25 cents per minute, and you can just upload an audio file and it's automatically transcribed. And the other is Otter.ai, and the free package, I believe, has 600 minutes a month that's available as well. And the accuracy is quite incredible. Like, I would say it's over 90%. And in some cases where if you just want notes for a meeting or you just want a general gist of a conversation, that that can sometimes get the job done as well. So in terms of bringing it all together, these are a whole bunch of different kind of apps and tools that Meico and I have both come across in our journeys in terms of constantly finding tools that help us do our jobs better. But how do you keep an eye out for tools as they come up, and how do you find them as they emerge? Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't share the N10 Discuss forum, where this is a great opportunity where you can post almost any question. And I've had so many questions answered here in the past where, hey, does anyone know of a great tool for dealing with IT support tickets? And usually within 24 hours, you'll have someone in the community who will respond. Everyone is very helpful and warm in sharing their knowledge. So I would highly recommend checking out the N10 Discuss forum as well for any recommendations, or if you have any app suggestions and things that perhaps you can also chime in on the thread and help others in the community as well. And with that, we move over to questions. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to share. And thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. Well, before we get to questions, I just want to say that this was so timely right now, with everyone working from home and trying to update their tech stack. So this has been super great. And there's been tons of love on a lot of the apps that you guys mentioned. Zapier in particular, referring to the comment section. Zapier in particular, Scanner Pro, Airtable. Rebecca really loves that one. So some really great tools out there, and I really appreciate you guys bringing that to our attention. All right, so I believe this one was when Meico was talking. It's coming from Charlotte. She's asking, is Signal preferable to WhatsApp for safe messaging?
I'll actually let Jason take that. I think he's the expert on that.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah. So personally, I tend to prefer Signal over WhatsApp, in that WhatsApp, though it is end-to-end encrypted, that at the end of the day, it's still stored on someone else's server, that being Facebook, and that there isn't necessarily the assurance that it's going to be completely gone, like if you remove it, a message. So in terms of security and safety, I would tend to trust Signal more in that regard for having encrypted messaging that wouldn't be available after a certain time period as well for more sensitive conversations. So the Signal, for me, it's more so having the peace of mind that if I'm having a super sensitive conversation, that's one of the channels that to put things in perspective, Signal is also used by Edward Snowden for his messaging, and the types of conversations that he's having requires definitely some sensitivity to that as well. So between Edward Snowden and the EU Commission using it for recommendations for government conversations, that's kind of what I'm going by as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jason. And I also just want to send a quick reminder to everyone and everyone who missed the beginning, that you will receive the slide deck and the recording after this. So in case you missed anything, you'll definitely be receiving that afterwards. A question comes in from Brenda. She says, did you mention any apps to help with social media postings? I don't know if you guys want to just go over that super quickly again. I know you did go over a little bit about social media.
No, we didn't talk about social media posting, but a few that I have used and would recommend. Depending on what you're trying to do, there's Hootsuite, Buffer. Buffer is the one that I use. It currently meets my needs. If you want to get a bit more sophisticated, there's Sprout Social. And I believe all of these offer some type of nonprofit discount. And so you want to take the advice that I think Mel put in the chat, which is to reach out to their sales representative or the appropriate account manager person to find out what that discount is and how you actually sign up. I think the best thing is to identify what your actual needs are, because the tools that I mentioned, they're all sort of, they offer different features and different things. So you want to identify what your needs are and to figure out which tool actually meets what you need.
Great, thank you. Question coming in from Samantha. She says, I noticed that when I work from home, I tend to work way more hours or have a hard time unplugging from work. Do you have any advice on how to separate the two? And I second that. I would love your advice on that.
Yes. So this is a very common issue with folks that work from home a lot. And so one of the things that I would recommend is, pretend as if you are actually making your commute and you're actually going into the office, right? So when you're doing that, you actually have a commute time, right? And that time allows you to transition from home life to work life, right? You have a lunch break and then you leave and then you transition again. You're commuting back home, or you're commuting to the gym or some other maybe happy hour, right? And then you're back home again. And so you want to make sure that you are structuring your day where you're actually building in those structures, right? Just because you're working from home doesn't mean that you can just sort of jump out of bed and start working and not have that transition built in. So allow yourself that transition, and build in breaks for yourself, right? So, and it might be helpful for folks to actually, what I do is I actually block it out on my calendar. So for example, if I have lunch on my calendar and I have dinner on my calendar, and one of the reasons I have those actually blocked out on my calendars for two reasons. One, I can get so obsessed and caught into what I'm doing that I actually might forget to eat, right? I might actually forget to stop. And number two, what it does is it makes it less likely that I'm actually going to schedule a meeting over that because it's already on my calendar, right? And so I'm not fighting to get back that time after I've already scheduled something else. It's already there by default. So I would encourage people to schedule the things that you need for yourself in order to feed yourself, to pour into yourself, those breaks, the self-care, the yoga, exercise, whatever it is, and to schedule your work around that, just as if you were actually going into a physical office. And yeah, so that's what I would offer to folks as a place to start.
Great, thank you. Another question is coming in from sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. They're asking, do you have any thoughts on document sharing platforms, like, for example, like Google Drive, that offer better security controls?
Great question. Jason, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but my first inclination is to say that to look at the paid options that are available for things like the Microsoft platforms, and for Google, and to perhaps reach out to an account manager to see what the security options are, depending on what, I'm not sure if it's health information that you're sharing or some other type of information, but that can be one place to start. Jason, are you aware of any platforms specifically that are built with that in mind?
Yeah, I would say that Microsoft's controls, and this would go for both Google and Microsoft, that I think by default, typically when people share a link, it's set to kind of anyone who has the link, but making sure that you're setting the specific individuals that you want to view that document. If you want to get more granular, there is a feature in Microsoft that I think it's either, I think it's your E3 license that you'd have to look into, but you can set it so that when you send an email, that in order for someone to open that email, they have to authenticate and they have to log in to essentially prove that the recipient is who they say they are before they can download the PDF or the specific document that you've attached. So what you would be looking for there is a secure email send is the feature you're looking for, and I believe it's an E3 license, and that's something that is offered by Microsoft as well.
And two more things on this. So with Google, I use Google for myself and my team, and there's an option to limit access to folks who are within your domain, right? So that's one option that's available as well. And the second thing is to make sure that when we think about this conversation about security, that it's not just about the tool and having the tool do the work. We have to remember that the technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. And so that requires us to think about who are the people who are actually using the tools, right? And what are actually the processes and policies that we actually have in place. And so it's not just a matter of picking the right tool. You want to make sure that you have the right policies in place and also the right people in place, and that people are on the same page about how all those things connect, so that you're able to collectively work together to make sure that your information is secure.
Great, thank you. Another question coming from Aiden. Are there any apps that you can think of that help you track inventory in the office? Example, like Swag, office supplies. They're clarifying that they're not selling any inventory, just keeping track of everything that's in the office. I'm wanting something that is better than an Excel sheet that helps staff know, number one, if we have the supply or inventory, and number two, where to find it. And bonus, if it could have a photo component.
I know for sure that Airtable can do that. And so the cool thing about Airtable is that there are templates based on people who might have similar use cases. And so that might be one tool that you can look into. It might require some configuration on your part, and if you're not familiar with Airtable, it might require you a little bit investing some time to figure out how to maximize it. But that's one tool that comes to mind right off the bat.
Yeah, a tool that comes to mind, and this is more along the lines of digital asset management. So, if you have, it's used a lot by museums or galleries. We use it internally for managing photos, so that instead of looking at folders upon folders of file names, but I imagine that it can be repurposed for asset management as well. It's called Resource Space. So it is open source software, and there is a paid version of it as well that is offered. However, if you have someone technical in-house, or you can hire a developer to install it on a server, you can use the credits that are provided both by Amazon and Microsoft, for Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure. And the credits are more than enough to store resource space, as well as having a very visual interface for managing assets as well.
Great. I was actually going to echo your comments, Meico. Airtable came to mind first as well, but I had no idea about the one that you just mentioned, Jason, so that's great. We are unfortunately running out of time. There are a couple more questions, but I will have to apologize. I think we'll kind of leave it at there. If you do wanted to get in touch with either Jason or Meico, please feel free to do so. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions that they weren't able to get to. I don't know if you guys had any final last words you'd like to say, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and for attending all of our 3-day virtual conference sessions that we had. It was an absolute blast working with all of the talented nonprofit experts, and I encourage everyone to show them some love and support. I'm sure they'll probably need it during these times as well. So with that, I would like to pass it off to you two for any final words if you want to say anything.
I would just like to say thank you to you all for coordinating this, and thank you all for showing up. And just a reminder that it's not just about the technology, right? It's also about the tools and the policy. So bringing all those things together to make all of these work together so you can actually be faster and more nimble.
Yeah, I want to echo that sentiment. Thank you so much for hosting us today. And if there's anyone who is watching today who does have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Our contact information are on the slides here. So whether it be through email or Twitter, always happy to help and share. So please do reach out.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure, like I said, and just take care of yourselves out there.